This Marjorie Taylor Greene clip, was this recirculated or has it just been found?
Yeah, Andrew Kaczynski recirculated it.
Okay, so this is a clip from a few years ago, 2019, I believe, where Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about her efforts to harass David Hogg, who was one of the survivors of one of our other school shootings, who's been vocal about wanting gun reform. If people recall, Marjorie Taylor Greene had dabbled in crisis actor conspiracy theories about victims of mass shootings at schools. And like here she is bragging about her harassment of a high schooler who had gone through trauma and wanted to ensure that it didn't happen to other people.
I'm fine with not even debating David. I'll debate his mom. Like, come on, mama to mama.
Mom and mama. Come on, mama.
You want to run your
I'm
mouth,
not gonna,
lady?
yeah, you can be like, look, I just don't want to pick on a little 18-year-old kid, okay? You know,
I already picked on him twice, and he ran away from me.
Exactly.
So,
that happens.
you know, he
I think
ran
I met you
away.
at the DCV
Just tell her, say, hey, don't you go run your hog chops
I have.
like that.
I've posted it on my Facebook page. I have challenged her and him to a debate since she was vocal enough to post it on Facebook.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that because I remember he ran up when he ran. I started laughing. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. So I'm like, "Come on, let's do it. Let's do it. I would love to."
Yeah, the glee in her face, like, twice I've already harassed him. I've already asked him to debate. I've already picked on him twice, she said. Like, we've talked about how right-wingers want to bring bullying back, especially with trans and gay kids. They want there to be a certain amount of bullying and harassment of kids to make sure that they stay in the closet or that they're not seen or that they're shamed into not being who they are. Right-wingers like this. They are bullies inherently. And so the fact that she's bragging about this and gleeful, just a reminder that this is how, as Brandon was talking about, this just... We pretend like they're isolated, siloed instances, but these school shootings happen, these mass shootings happen, and it's the same garbage over and over again. We're already dealing with conspiracy theories about this shooter, and we did nothing after Parkland, we did nothing after Sandy Hook, and it's likely we'll do nothing about this.
Well, just to say real quick, so something we did do after Parkland was, this is Samuel Singway tweet, legislators responded to the 2018 Parkland shooting by hiring police officers in every elementary school, middle school, and high school in Florida. Didn't make students safer, instead it led to this. And here's just some of the statistics. The percentage of youth arrests happening at school hit a 5-year high of 20%. The number of students expelled from school increased 43%. For the first time ever, there are more police officers working in Florida schools, 3,650, than there are school nurses.
Jeez.
The number of, I mean, talk about a fucking stat that says your society is failing. Then there are school nurses, there's a lot more, 1,400 more cops. The number of police officers in schools is more than double the number of school social workers and school psychologists.
Yes, the right wing cares so much about mental health.
Schools reported more than 4 times as many incidents of using physical restraints on students. So there you go. That's what more cops does, folks.
Well, I mean, it also
the two teachers who were killed in the shooting, by all accounts, they put their lives on the line and tried to block off their kids. They did way more for those kids than the cops who were outside. I mean, I don't, and we don't fund them. In fact, we defund teachers all the time. We defund education in this country all the time. And
to give their money to cops, to literally give their money to the police so that they can stand outside. The only way they could have been more copy outside would be if they were charging overtime for being out there while kids were being shot. I think it's untrue too. This is the only time. This might be one of the only times where like the passive headline describing a child being shot while a cop is near is deserved, because it was just like kids shot, cops standing by, and this time they weren't the ones who were shooting the kids. So I mean, I guess that's a step up.
Yeah, well, they were blocking their parents from, as their parents wailed in agony, from trying to go help their kids, let alone doing it themselves.
small victories for the police, I suppose.
You know, there was an interview I was reading with one of the teachers in that school who knew the two teachers who were killed, and you know, she was a teacher, anonymous. They didn't want to put her name out there, but in this report I was reading, you know, she repeatedly said, like, you know, all the teachers feel this way, and I know many teachers who feel this way too. You know, these aren't my students; these are my children. Like, I look at them as my own kids, and when I read that. In this political climate, the first thing I thought of was, you know, that's what I always heard from teachers. And I thought it was so commendable that that's how they view, like, the kids they teach every day. They view them in the same light as their own children. But over the past few months, we've seen those words used back at teachers to smear them. Whenever, like, there was even one where there was a teacher who posted a video to LGBTQ students saying, like, if your parents don't appreciate you for who you are, you know, I'll be your parent. Like, this, in that same vein, like, I look at you as my own kid. Yeah. And libs of TikTok and other right-wing accounts like that harassed that teacher and smeared them for it, saying, no, these are my kids. Don't you dare treat them like yours. And it's just amazing to see this dynamic where you have these teachers who are ready to die for these kids that they and they're not their kids. They literally are not their kids. They teach them. It's their job. But here they're ready to die for these kids who they view personally as their own children. And the right is ready to smear these teachers for doing that in any other case.
Yeah, I mean, we played that video yesterday of the valedictorian student making the speech in Florida, and he couldn't say that he was accepted because he was gay, so instead he made the speech about how he was accepted because he was curly haired. And he cited a teacher, and that teacher that made him feel comfortable about being who he was. And like you said, the libs of TikTok stuff, I mean, teachers are absolute heroes. Some of the, like, as a class, a heroic class in this country. And anybody who attacks them, there's
something wrong with you.
And, like, there's something wrong with libs of TikTok and everyone who supported that, like Glenn Greenwald, who pumped that shit. Also, Jimmy Dore, who attacked the teachers earlier this year for being fearmongered by Fauci. Fuck all those people.
Yep.
You know, I just wanted to touch on, because you know me, I love conspiracy theories. I just wanted to touch on the crisis actor part of what Marjorie Taylor Greene believes about Parkland, because, you know, it is, and also, like, obviously Alex Jones and Sandy Hook. Yeah. It is like there are obviously, you know, content creators on the far right who promote conspiracy theories like that, knowingly understanding that they are false and that they are doing so for attention, for money, to, like, promote some sort of ideological agenda. But there are definitely people, I think, you know, just by nature of how conspiracies work, who are attracted to that kind of thing because they don't want to believe that they live in a country where children can be shot in their classroom and officially nothing will be done about it, because, like, for more or less, because, like, you know, a few, you know, executives are becoming rich off of it. So, you know, I think that it's important to acknowledge that some people fall down these sorts of rabbit holes, and it's not just like the crisis actors for school shootings, but it's also stuff like COVID-19 being false, that some people will inevitably fall down these, like, rabbit holes that encourage them to deny, you know, what the country is and how it gets by, and also, you know, just the realities of how it treats its people, up until the point, and this is not meant to demonize anybody, up until a point where they find themselves dying of COVID-19 because they didn't get, you know, vaccinated and they haven't been, you know, protecting themselves. You know, they find themselves, you know, becoming the victim of gun violence, either at their own hands, because, you know, most gun deaths are suicides in this country, or some, you know, the victim of some sort of other violent act as a result of, you know, the Nazis they surround themselves with. Or, you know, just like in January 6th, they find themselves wrapped up in the criminal justice system for the first time because they were, quote unquote, tricked into going there for a free speech rally. It's like, once that happens to these people's viewers, the Marjorie Taylor Greene's viewers, once they have, you know, Tucker Carlson, etc., they just pretend like those people don't exist, because, like, this is just the reality of our capitalist society. It's, you know, it's a monster that ends up eating everybody eventually. And, you know, the right wing in this country, the demagogues who make their money, like, trafficking in these kinds of ideas, are just relying on it not happening to their audience at high enough numbers quick enough that they start really waking up to the fact that they're not immune from the prison industrial complex, or, you know, to the realities of virus ravaging the country, or the realities of gun violence. And so, you know, it's important to try to wake these people up before they're being woken up by like the material conditions that will inevitably come to like remind them that, oh shit, I guess these weren't crisis actors in, the Boston bombing or in this school shooting. It was actually just like what America really is.
Yeah, well, that's what those conspiracy theories provide for them is a way out, or a rosier explanation that does not challenge the fundamental underpinnings of capitalism or our society. And yeah.
No, definitely. I think it's also like, it's not just the far right. They're definitely ones who traffic and stuff like that, but it's also enabled by a centrist media apparatus that doesn't really want to talk about like, why is it that we are unable to legislate effectively on guns, even if like the majority of the population wants it? And the answer is for the same reason we're unable to legislate effectively on pharmaceutical prices or, healthcare. It's because there are a handful of like incredibly wealthy lobbyists who are, have a direct line into our politicians' ears. And their interests are being weighed more heavily against, the lives of children. And so like there are a lot of gaps being left when, people like Chris Hayes might say like, don't tell me the police are actually like this. It's like, of course they are.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to, and you not being able to admit that only empowers people on the far right who are going to go like, of course they're not. It's just because it was Mossad or something and not really the police.